A very good morning to all of you and welcome to the session, the Hindu Editorial Analysis for Proficiency in English. As usual, let us start with the snippets. Good morning to all of you. The very first one, high-level trip. High-level trip, Jaishankar to begin 6-day US visit today. There's nothing as such if you look at it very casually, but if you look at it as a smart learner, there are two things you can learn. The very first one, trip. When it comes to trip, imagine he is going on a trip for how long? 6-day visit. Every day he may have a plan to visit a particular state, a particular place. And 1 week or 6 days, the complete travel plan. What is that called? There is one important word. Have you heard of this any time? Sojourn you can use Naidu, very good. But that goes with effective English and written English. What is the one that goes with everyday English? Very good. Usually we say itinerary. We pronounce this word as itinerary. But look at the spelling, itinerary. That way it is important from the exam point of view. Because we say itinerary, they may give a wrong spelling. You got to be careful with the spelling. The second word, some people travel a lot. 1 day in London, another day in Paris, third day in New York. They go around the world. There's one word for those people. We say, have you heard of this word? Globetrotter. He is a globetrotter. Globetrotter means a person who travels around the world quite often. These two words you have to recollect as a smart learner. What is the other one here? Today. Today is complete or incomplete? Today is incomplete. And whenever we use a time phrase that indicates an incomplete time period, we should use present perfect tense. Once in SBI, they gave a question. She wrote 2 books this year. Wrong. She has written 2 books this year. That you have to recollect. Otherwise, not a big deal. Casual learning, there is nothing to learn. But smart learners, there is something to learn. What is the second snippet? Change in rules. Center scraps. There's one word here. Scrap, I'm sure you all know, as a noun. But here, answer my question, has it been used as a noun or as a verb? Scrap. You all know scrap is a noun. You throw all the unwanted material, that is known as what? Scrap. But here it has been used as a verb. Good, Naidu. As a verb, what does it mean? Try to guess based on the context. Center scraps no detention policy for classes 5-8. There has been a policy, had been rather, no detention. Center cancels that. Scrap means not to continue. Not to continue. Scrap means not to continue. Scraps no detention policy for classes 5 and 8. Means what? Students of classes 5 and 8, if they fail, old policy, they would continue. Now it doesn't happen. They get some time, 1 or 2 months. They have to write the exam again. And second time also they fail, they will not be sent to the higher classes. That's what it talks about. And there is one word here, change in rules. When it comes to rules and regulations, we use strict, you all know. But what is a better word? Stringent rules. Strict rules, what do we say? Stringent rules. And rules are very strict. Law is very strict. There is one, draconian law. Draconian rules and regulations, draconian law means what? Extremely severe, Very strict. Very good. Pawan Kumar, I appreciate. Otherwise, simple words. Let us go to the next news item, snippet. Sri Lankan Tamils cause means problem. PM silence on 13/8 due to lack of pressure. That is someone's opinion, someone's stand. Simple words. Data point, denial. Denial of visas. We get this word denial from which word? We take deny. Deny has two meanings. One meaning to refuse, another to say no. What are the two meanings? To refuse. The other one to say no. And here denial of visas for Indians in Australia. What is the reason behind? It is linked to fraud, not housing crisis. If you take Australia, they are not doing this because of housing crisis, but because of fraud related to visas or something. And when you look at the word crisis singular, what is a plural form? Try to respond in the meantime. Crisis singular, crisis plural. Causing a flutter, we have one here. Flutter has two meanings. One meaning, beat. It goes with bird's wings. When a bird moves its wings quickly, we say flutter. But flutter here, look at the pattern. Causing a flutter means some impact. Here it means impact. Raghu stuns Satish, meets Mithun in final. Let us go to the main headline, today's paper. Suspected Khalistan operatives gunned down in Uttar Pradesh. Gunned down, you can also say shot down. They were shot down by the cops. You can use that expression as well. Otherwise, simple words. Some progress made on Gaza hostage deal. There is one word here, hostage. Generally, we say hostage crisis. Hostage crisis. Imagine a plane has been hijacked by terrorists. Then we say there is a hostage crisis. What is the other snippet? Here, Benjamin Netanyahu's pick and the Israeli Prime Minister say some progress made on Gaza hostage deal. House panel flags excess spending by 4 ministers. This goes with excess spending. Based on spending, there are so many words. Usually positive words. Some people, when they go shopping, when they spend, they think twice before spending. Then we use words like frugal. What is the word? Frugal. Here, based on spending, I would like to give a few words. The very first one is frugal. We also use the word thrifty. But on the negative side, we have spendthrift. This is a negative word. Prodigal. This is also a negative word. And we also use words like lavish, extravagant, prodigal, spendthrift, negative words. What are the positive words? Frugal. And also frugal, besides that, thrifty. Here excess spending means lavish, extravagant. Those are the words. If some people are rich, they don't spend money at all. What is the word for those? Miser. We also use everyday English stingy. What is the word? Stingy. Stingy is a simple word, goes with everyday English. It talks about ministers spending excess amount. Based on that, house panel flagged means marked for consideration, something important. We have Rahul Gandhi meets skin of Dalit man in Parbani. Simple words, but let us see. Here, gunned down, already have read out. Bangladesh writes to India seeking Hasina's extradition. Extradition we have got. What does it mean? If a person commits a crime in one particular country, flees to another country, then that country sends that person back. That act is called extradition, an important word. Kin, you have to think of kith and kin. Those words are important. Here we have a great personality has passed away. Who is that great personality? Shyam Benegal. Benegal, guiding light of parallel cinema, bids farewell at 90. Bids farewell, an important expression. Parallel cinema, an important expression. What is this parallel cinema? When we talk about movies, we talk in terms of commercial movies, art movies. Art movies are also known as parallel cinema. They are not the typical commercial movies. Here it talks about guiding light of, when we talk about parallel cinema or art films, two names are stand out. One Satyajit Ray, the other one Shyam Benegal. This talks about at 90 he bid farewell, means he passed away. And we have another interesting thing over here. How many of you can recognize this bird? This is the peacock dodo bird, which became extinct in 1681, I suppose. Extinct bird dodo. But why is it here on the front page of the Hindu? Kashmiri artisans give wings to the dodo. This actually, if you go to Delhi or beyond that, you come across artisans make using paper pulp. That is known as papier-mâché. Papier-mâché means paper pulp, and all this is all paper pulp, light in weight. They have given, this has been made by Kashmiri artisans and exported. And that way they have given wings to or life to dodo. Give wings to the dodo means based on export news. They have been exporting this one, made of papier-mâché. Domestic food needs have priority, says Joshi. Simple words. That's all from the front page headlines. Let us go to lack of time. I could not bring the regular format, but this should be okay. An important editorial. This is all about the Forest Act. It's about that, an important article, editorial. How does it start? Cannery in the canopy. There are two words over here. One is cannery. Have you heard of this any time? And canopy. Have you heard of this any time? These two words. Canary is a small bird, yellow in color, and known for its singing ability, kept as a pet. Canary, a small yellow bird. Canopy means when you go to the Amazon forest or any rainforest, you have a lot of trees. And the top branches of trees, almost they touch one another. The top branches of trees are known as canopy, the foliage. The continuous, the foliage of different trees, the top branches, we use the word canopy. Economic growth cannot be allowed to bypass environment loss. There is a message here, that way it is very important. Today we have a dilemma. You can say dilemma, you can say dilemma. What is that? We need development. India is a developing country. Development must be given utmost priority, but not at the cost of the environment. So what is the problem? On the one hand, development is indispensable, essential, inevitable, unavoidable. On the other hand, environment is getting affected. Which one to focus on? Do we need development or do we need environment? That is always a million-dollar question. Based on that, the editor takes a stand and says, economic growth cannot be allowed. Can be allowed active voice. Cannot be allowed passive voice. And development is important, economic growth is important, but cannot be allowed to bypass means ignore. Ignore environment laws. Environment laws are there. We cannot bypass or overlook or ignore those laws for protecting the environment for development. A clear stand taken by the editorial. How does it go? Through history, forests for humans have been sites of shelter, food, livelihoods, protection, and strength of spirits. There is one particular pattern. They have been, very important, have been sites of shelter. There are two words you have to focus on. The forests have been something for the mankind. Here, answer my question, forests have been. Which tense is that? Is it active voice or passive voice? I'll wait for your response. Present perfect active voice. Why is it important? A lot of students think the moment they see been, they think passive voice. No. She has been a student. He has been a professor. Present perfect active voice. And SITEs, you have to think of the other words. Cite, CITE, means what? Quote. SIGHT goes with your visual thing. But here what is it? SITES, place. Sites of shelter, food, livelihoods, protection, and strength of spirit. Easy to understand. The first sentence talks about the importance of forests for the mankind. They have been a source of so many things. Shelter, food, livelihood, all these things. According to the New India State of Forest Report, this is a stimulus. According to the New India State of Forest Report 2023, 25% of India's land is covered by forests or trees. On its face, a healthy figure and a step closer to the National Forest Policy's prescriptions. The latest report says 25% of India's land, 1/4 of India's land, has forests and trees. On the face of it, an important expression. On the face of it, on its face, on the face of it, means when you see that, your first impression, it looks good, something positive, a healthy figure and a step closer to the National Forest Policy's prescriptions. Very close to the prescriptions given by the National Forest Policy. But first positive information, immediately a contrasting word. That means something negative. But big numbers, 25% big number, percentage. Big numbers always hide problems. Here the writer says, based on the report, 1/4, 25% forests and trees. On the face of it looks positive, very in line with the National Forest Policy, but it hides something. Big numbers hide problems. What are those problems? He has to tell. He or she has to tell us. Post-independence, India's forest governance has been typified by attempts to break free from European colonists' insular view of forests as sources of timber codified in laws the country inherited. Europeans, Britishers especially, when they ruled us, how did they look at forests? A source of timber. That is like a mindset. And post-independence, India's forest governance has been typified by attempts to break that mindset, attempts to break free from. Break free means to move away from. European colonialist insular view, there's one important word. Insular tape, have you heard of that? If you talk to an electrician or see an electrician typically carries a red tape, black tape. They are known as, they are used for insulation, protection. Insular means protecting. Insular view, closed view of forests as what? Sources of timber codified in laws the country inherited. We got the laws, forest laws from the from Britishers, and the view that time was forests are a source of timber, and they wanted to break that. Two significant achievements in this regard were, what is this regard? Breaking away from the Europeans' mindset or Europeans' view, looking at forests as a source of timber. Two significant achievements in this regard were the Forest Conservation Act 1980 and the Forest Rights Act 2006. How did they come out of this, how did they break free from the European mindset? They came up with two acts. One deals with, there are other achievements, the Forest Conservation Act 1980 and the Forest Rights Act 2006. The counteracting forces of industrial development and the pressures of climate change on the state have, however, troubled the implementation of both acts, and the government has sadly chosen the easy way out. Breaking free from the European mindset, India came up with two acts, very good, one conservation, protection related, but unfortunately they could not implement. What is the reason? Two forces acted against these two acts. What are the two forces? One goes with the development dimension, industrialization, industrial development, and the other one in the form of climate change. These two factors, because of these two factors, counter factors, they could not implement. The government has chosen the easy way. The counteracting forces of industrial development, first one, and the pressures of climate change, second one, on the state have, however, troubled the implementation of both acts. Both acts got troubled when it came to implementation, and the government has sadly chosen the easy way out. What is that easy way out? When we read the second part, we come to know. Courts and conservationists have demanded that the state follow the dictionary definition of forest, whereas, now how do we define? Second part starts with the definition of a forest. For definition, usually I use terms like primary meaning, secondary meaning, tertiary meaning. I also say the literal meaning. Based on the word origin, we say literal meaning. But the word may have many meanings. Interpretation may differ from person to person, dictionary to dictionary sometimes. It talks about what exactly does it mean, forests. Courts and conservationists have demanded that the state follow the dictionary definition of forest, whereas is also a contrasting word. The administration has been muddying it to exclude community forests among others, while including plantations and orchards. Conservationists and courts wanted the government to follow the dictionary definition, lexical meaning of the word forest. But on the other hand, contrary to that, the government has chosen something else. What has it chosen? Whereas the administration has been muddying means spoiling something. It is in present perfect continuous tense. Has been muddying it to exclude community forest. Government has excluded community forests from the term forest, one thing, and among others, so many things, while including plantations and orchards. There is one word here. How many of you know the meaning of the word orchards? Plantation you can guess, you can make out. But how many of you know the meaning of the orchard? If you respond, I will wait for a few seconds, then I will give the meaning. Orchard means what? It doesn't come under forests. Plantations also don't come under forests. But government has included, unfortunately. Orchard means, imagine I have a piece of land. I grow only fruit trees on that piece of land. Then that is known as orchard. Exactly, Malleshwari, wonderful. Growing only fruit plants. And they considered those also, they included under forests, plantations and orchards. Even if the administration's impetus means what? Something like stimulus, a push. Impetus is murky. Murky means not clear. It is allowing India to claim it is growing its carbon sink towards its climate commitments, while allowing developmental activities to continue unimpeded. I've given this word many a time, impede. Impede is a verb form, impediment is a noun form. Means what? Block. Impediments, hurdles, bottlenecks and hindrances, all these synonyms. Fillip also you can say, push something, add a fillip. Even if the administration's impetus is murky, it is allowing India to claim. There's a problem here. Problem is what? When it includes plantations, orchards and excludes community forests, it can project in a particular way. What is that projection? Allowing India to claim it is growing its carbon sink towards its climate commitments at the same time, while allowing developmental activities to continue unimpeded. Because of this definition of forest, government can continue with its developmental activities. At the same time, it can claim it is going in the right direction to meet the climate change related carbon footprint goals. Thus, what is the conclusion based on this? Thus, the 25% figure hides forest cover loss in the biodiverse. Because of this definition, there is a negative impact. What is that negative impact? Though government projects we have 25% and we are following the goals set by the government to meet the goals, there is a problem here. What is that problem? Thus, the 25% figure hides forest cover loss in the biodiverse Western Ghats, the Nilgiris and the Northeast, the shrinking of mangroves in the Kutch and the Andamans, and of moderately dense forests and the ongoing endangerment of open natural ecosystems. Based on this definition, all these things need not be highlighted. They can be covered, they can be hidden, and there is a loss happening over here. This sentence is very important. Though on the face of it, 25%, that figure seems to be good, there is something hidden. What is hidden? We are losing the precious natural resources, especially these are like hotspots. Western Ghats, known for rainforests, and you take the Nilgiris, the Northeast, the shrinking of mangroves, all are very important ecosystems. Unfortunately, we are losing. The report also lacks details about whether it estimates of the carbon sequestration potential of degraded land and account for the specific uses to which they are currently being subjected. The report does not include certain things. What are those things? The report also lacks details about whether its estimates of the carbon, there is one important word, sequestration. Means what? Absorbing, act as a sink to take carbon. Potential of degraded land account for the specific uses to which they are currently being subjected. Whether we can consider degraded land as a source for carbon sequestration, that has been no details regarding that. Forest loss in biodiverse areas cannot be adjusted with new plantations elsewhere, the consequences of which are exacerbated, means made worse, by the decision to include even commercial plantations which have lower sequestration and ecological value, and the continued use of the Compensatory Afforestation Fund Act. This needs a bit of awareness regarding environment. What does it say? We cannot take plantations, orchards as an alternative. They cannot be alternatives to a pristine forest. If you come across a forest, natural forest, that is a result of hundreds of years nature working, and you remove that forest and elsewhere you plant trees or orchards, they are no match at all. The difference is like poles apart. And natural forest has so much value, ecological value, biodiversity, over hundreds of years came into existence. But plantations and orchards, they cannot replace forests. The sentence talks about the same. Forest loss in biodiverse areas cannot be adjusted with new plantations elsewhere, the consequences of which are exacerbated. The impact of that, worsened by the decision to include even commercial plantations. The government wants to include commercial plantations under the term forests, which have lower, obviously commercial plantations don't have carbon sequestration, they have lower sequestration and ecological value. Commercial plantations, no ecological value. You may count the number of plants or the number of trees, but a forest has a different value altogether. Ecological value, biodiversity value. And the continued use of the Compensatory Afforestation Fund Act. Compensatory Afforestation Act. It deals with what? You cut down, there's a term called fall. Fall, fell, fallen, one word everyone knows. Fell, felled, felled, another word. Means to cut. Cut what? Trees. You cut down a lot of trees, you completely destroy a forest, and using this Afforestation Act, you plant trees somewhere else. They are not one and the same, poles apart, the difference. And national forest and afforestation, that is a different thing altogether. Indeed, the growing gap between theoretical and actual forests also extends to finances. There is another dimension here, I'm sorry. What is the other dimension? There is a gap. What is that gap? What does it deal with? Indeed, the growing gap between theoretical and actual forests also extends to finances. In several northern districts, the extent of forest cover that suffered fire losses has increased by an order of magnitude in 2 years. Now the editorial touches forest fires and loss of forest based on that. It seems northern districts, not very specific. In several northern districts, the extent of forest cover that suffered fire losses has increased by an order of magnitude in 2 years. Ground reports by the Hindu have documented a paucity of human resources, skill and equipment to control fires. Paucity means what? Shortage. Sleep like a log, you have to recollect. Yes. And here, paucity of what? Human resources, skill and equipment to control fires. Forest fires also make a tremendous negative impact on nature. And forest fires, one shot, remove many trees, and sometimes the entire forest may disappear because of a major forest fire. Economic growth is essential and trees will be lost, but this is precisely why the friction that laws impose on the growth impulse is essential too. When we want development, there is a saying in English, what is it? When you want something, you have to lose something. We want something that is a development, we have to lose the trees. And that is the reason why there is a law to control that urge to clear trees and go in for development. The sentence says that economic growth is essential and trees will be lost, but this is precisely why the friction that laws impose on the growth impulse is essential too. Yet the government has been weakening environmental safeguards. Coming to the main point, government has been weakening the safeguards related to environment, yet is also a contrasting word. The government has been weakening environmental safeguards. More recently, the Forest Conservation Amendment Act 2023 further contracted the 1980 Act's purview. There is one important word, purview. Within someone's purview means within their jurisdiction, within their control, the framework. And based on the recent act, the scope has been cut down or brought down. Based on which amendment act? The Forest Conservation Amendment Act 2023 further what? Contracted the 1980 Act's purview and distorting its official inventory of forests. Distort means to change. Distort goes with images. Actual image is one thing, but you morph that one, you change, make changes. That is nothing but distortion. Distorting what? Its official inventory of forests. When the definition changes, inventory of forests also changes. How does it end? It is hard to imagine anyone winning in the end. Because of this game, it is very difficult to imagine anyone winning in the end. No one is going to win. That's the stand taken by the editorial. That's all about today's editorial. Very useful because it deals with environment, it deals with government, it deals with law, it deals with something essential, forests. You may get as a passage, so try to read twice or thrice. It will help in the long run. Have a nice day. Thank you very much. Tomorrow it is the regular pattern, usual pattern I will bring. Lack of time, I could not bring the regular pattern. Don't worry about that. The regular pattern, I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much.